Okay, guys. So how is your exam preparation going on? All of you. Joshna, Kavita, Kriti, Navya, Nikhil, Pavana, Shravya. Good. Perfect. Okay, guys. So let us keep this session very interactive so that we'll make the best out of this session. Good. Perfect. Okay. So today we are starting CMA USA Part 1 examination booster session. 6 days, 6 sections, quick recap of all the important topics which are mostly tested on our CMA USA examinations. So are we good to start? Can I see thumbs up from all of you? Perfect. Okay. Okay. So guys, can you confirm if my screen is visible? Yeah. So guys, when I'm screen sharing, I request all of you to reply either through uh, unmuting or through the chat box because I will not be able to see if you react thumbs up or something. Okay. Yes. So now in the CMA USA Part 1 examination, as we all know, there are 6 sections and each of them have the following weightage. So section A, which is about external financial reporting standards, it has weightage up to 15%. Then we have section B, planning, budgeting and forecasting, which has a weightage of up to 20%. Then section C is about performance management for 20% weightage. Then section D, cost management, is of 15% weightage. Then section E is of internal controls, which is again 15% weightage. And section F, technology and analytics, again, it's for 15%. Okay, so now, what is this weightage all about? It is nothing but in our final examination, which we attempt for 500 points. Okay, so in that 500 points, each of these sections will have the respective weightages. So section A will contribute up to 15% of our 500 points and so on. So now the exam pattern. So we have 2 sections in the exam. First, we will have MCQs for 3 hours and the next section is about essay or CBQs. So this choice between essay or CBQs, it is only available in this window. From the next session, you will be compulsorily choosing CBQs. Okay. So now MCQs will be for 3 hours. So what is tested on MCQs? So we'll be having 100 questions, which is a combination of level A, level B, and level C. So what are these levels? So level A consists of simple questions. Okay. So these simple questions can contain marks, let us say, for example, 1 marks, and there are some questions which do not consist of any marks at all. We don't know which questions don't consist of any marks and which contain the marks. Okay. Then level B questions. So these are a sort of twisted easy questions. So what are these twisted easy questions in the sense? As you read the MCQ, you'll feel it very simple. Okay. And you will find out the option as well, which is there in 4 options, one of the 4 options. But what happens is the actual right answer will be one more step ahead of what you solved. Okay, so you need to be very careful when you read such questions. Be very cautious about what is the requirement of the question and are you satisfying it. Then comes level C questions. So level C questions are proper application questions. You need to understand the scenario that is being given and provide the best answer for that scenario. So here you will have to involve all your logical skills and the subject knowledge that you have gained in the CMA syllabus. So here, when it comes to marks allocation, we don't know exactly how many marks does each of our MCQs contain. There will be 100 questions. We never know how many of them contain marks, how many of them don't. We don't know. But according to the mark distributions, level A questions contain very less marks, 1 or 2 marks or no marks. Level B questions contain slightly higher marks and level C questions can contain up to 4 or 5 marks as well. Okay. So now what should be your aim when you are attending MCQs? As we don't know how to segregate these questions, it is always best to focus on answering all the questions properly. Okay. So I give a limit of up to 80%. Always focus whenever you take a mock test or anything. Always focus on scoring more than 80% because you will fix to that level. Even in your examination also, your mind will follow the same pattern. Okay. So then this 100 questions, okay, so they can be a combination of your practical MCQs and theory MCQs. Okay, in what percentage? It can be any percentage, 50% practicals and 50% theory, or 70% practical and 30% theory. We never know. Okay, you should be prepared for both practical and theory. Then at least 50 questions have to be correct for you in order to be eligible for the next section of the exam, which is essay or CBQs. But that doesn't mean as soon as we enter into the next section, that is essay or CBQs, that doesn't mean that we pass the examination. That is just the criteria for entering into the next section. Okay. Now, when we enter into essay or CBQs, we will have 1 more hour of examination. If we don't, we will end our examination in 3 hours. Okay. So if when our essay or CBQs start, you'll be having 1 hour and anywhere between 12 to 14 sub-questions you are supposed to answer. Okay. Now, how do you allocate this time? You will have to read the scenario that requires time. At the same time, you will have to attend the sub-questions. So time management for essay, you should be really very careful. For CBQs, as you need to find out the answers. So time management in CBQs will be easy when compared to essays, but both of them will be easy itself. Be a little careful in time management. So divide your time exactly half an hour for each scenarios. Use 5 to 6 minutes for reading the scenario. Then the rest of the time allocate it equally for each of the sub-questions. Okay. So how do you get this right? Practice. So you will be knowing your exam day. Prior to that, 1 week or 2 weeks, start practicing essay questions, 2 scenarios for 1 hour. You will easily get the time management. Okay. Now, what about the marks allocation? Okay. So MCQs consist of the maximum of 375 points. Okay. And the essay or CBQ questions will maximum consist of 125 points. And to pass the examination, we need to score a minimum of 360 points. Okay. So now let me give you a small tip. When you are attending your examination, suppose you have answered 80% of your MCQs properly. Okay. Then you will be entering into your essay or CBQ sections. Okay. Once you enter into essay or CBQs, you will not be able to get back to your MCQ questions. Once MCQ section is done, it's done once for all. Okay. Now, suppose you have completed half an hour before. Your MCQ questions are completely done half an hour before. At that point of time, you can utilize this half an hour extra that you have saved in your MCQs into your essay. Okay. Now, what happens is, in your exam monitor, there will be 2 options. Finish test, move to the next section. Okay. So most of them whoever have written the exam so far, some of the students, what they have done is, instead of clicking for the next section, they have clicked on finish test. Finish test is not finishing MCQ sections, it is finishing entire examination. Okay, so don't take risk. Once you are done completely with your MCQs, there will be volunteers there in the exam hall to help you out. Call them, take their guidance, and move on to the essays. Okay, so please don't click anything, any option or any icon that you don't know on the monitor. Okay, guys. So are we all clear with the hint of how to attend the examination? Any doubts? Guys, if you're reacting, I'll not be able to see. I request all of you to either type it in the chat box or you can unmute and answer. Perfect. Okay, guys. So today we will be starting with section B. Why section B? Because as you see, among the 6 sections, there are 2 sections which have the maximum weightage, section B and section C. So we shall move in the order of the sections which have the maximum weightage. So today we shall be starting with section B. So before we start the session, can you guys tell me what is meant by strategic planning in your own words? What is meant by strategic planning? The long-term planning. Perfect. It's a long-term planning about the strategies of the organization. Okay. So now we shall start discussing about the planning. Yes. So here in section B, there are 6 most important topics that we need to focus on. Strategic planning and competitive advantage, forecasting techniques, probability, expected value and variance calculations. Next up, we have budget methodologies, followed by master budget preparation. Then the budgeting concepts and key formulas. Okay. So to start with planning. So we all know what planning is. Planning is nothing but well in advance we'll decide what is the action to be done, how we are going to do it, who is to do it, and when it has to be done. That is what is known as planning. Okay. So in any given organization, they will have certain aim or objective to be reached. Because of that itself, they'll plan. And the ultimate goal or objective of any given organization in the long run will be to attain this superior performance. So what is the superior performance? To be the #1 company in their industry, to earn the maximum profitability. Okay, so to earn maximum profitability, a company should have the best performance in their industry. That is what is meant by superior performance. Okay. So why do they need the superior performance? Because that helps them increase their profitability, and if their profits increase, they will be able to enhance the shareholder value. Okay. So next up, we have strategic planning. So strategic planning, in the sense, we plan our unique strategies that makes us stand out of the competition, stand vivid in the competition, so that we will achieve the superior performance. Through the same planning, if we follow as usual planning as any other business does, we will not be able to reach the top. So our strategies have to be different, unique, and it has to attract the customers. Only then we can reach the top. That is what we discuss in strategic planning. Formulation of strategies to achieve the competitive advantage. And the purpose, as I told you, ultimately it will be to achieve the superior performance, which maximizes our shareholder value. Okay. So now, who has this responsibility of strategic planning? So in the organization, we know that there are levels of management. Who do you think has the responsibility of strategic planning? Who has the responsibility of strategic planning in the three levels of management? Perfect. Top level. Okay. Now, when the people or the managers in this top level, when they are having this responsibility of strategic planning, they have two roles in which they can select one. Okay. So, what are the role of management in this strategic planning? We have two roles, that is market theory and the planning and control theory. Okay. So, in the market theory, what happens is managers don't actively participate. So after some circumstances take place in the organization, let's say right now there is a war going on in Middle East. Okay. After the war has taken place, they will realize that they need to react. That's a passive role. They are not prepared for economic circumstances. After they are hit by this Middle East war, bad circumstances, then they will react to that situation. That is market theory. And the exact opposite of market theory is planning and control theory. We will estimate what might happen in the future, and out of our estimation, we will determine how our pro action should be. So proactive is nothing but before an incident takes place, we are ready for facing it so that we can reduce the losses which are caused by that event. So that is an active role, which we call as being proactive in nature. Okay. So now there are three types of plans that majorly takes place in an organization, and they are strategic planning, tactical planning, and short-term planning. Okay. So strategic planning, as we all know, it is the long-term planning. It can be 3+ years or 5+years. And whenever you speak about the strategy, top level planning, long-term planning, so it will be taken care by board of directors and top level management. Together, we call them as tone at the top. Okay. And then whenever you are planning your strategies, okay, you will have to consider all the external and internal factors that are impacting your business. Okay. So because we exist in a dynamic business environment which keeps on changing instantly, we will have to keep ourselves in pace with this dynamic environment, which is constantly changing so that we can reach the top. And one more thing which you have to remember is strategic plans will always be directional in nature. That means they'll just show us the way, what we need to do, how we have to do it. There are no numbers involved in strategic planning. It just says us we need to achieve a level of profitability in 5 years or in 10 years. That's all. And the rest of the planning will take place in tactical and short term. Let us understand this with an example. So I'm a startup and I want to open 2 more branches in India. Okay. And I have 4 years of time. So that's my strategic plan to start 2 more branches in India, and I have 4 more years of time. So what I will do, I'll divide this plan into tactical plans. This 4-year plan, I'll divide it into 2-year plans each. Tactical plans can be up to 1 to 3 years. So now I'll focus on starting 1 branch in Bangalore for first 2 years. After opening 1 branch in Bangalore, the next 2 years, I'll focus on starting another branch in some part of the country. This is how we divide strategic planning to tactical plans. Okay. Now, what about this tactical plans? It will be the responsibility of upper and middle level management. So here, middle level managers will plan how to achieve this opening up a new branch in Bangalore within 2 years. That will be the plan of middle level management. They'll just take the support of upper level management. Okay. Then after tactical plans are created by the middle level managers, they further break it down into short term plans. Yeah, now I am sure that in 2 years, I will have to start a branch in Bangalore. How do I start this branch? So that is what our short term plans speak about. To start a branch, First, we have to achieve good profitability. Our product features should be good. We should get more customers in Bangalore. Only then we can start a branch in Bangalore. That is how you divide your tactical plans into short-term plans. Short-term plans will be for less than 1 year. For 1 year, you will have to plan it. And this plan will be happening in the combination of middle level managers and lower level management. Then on a day-to-day basis. Okay, so day-to-day basis in the sense all the operations that we do on a daily basis, sales, production, purchases, everything will be involved in this short-term planning. And then it is the basis for our budget preparation. So budgets is nothing but whatever operations we are doing in the firm, starting from sales till purchasing, production, and creating and calculating our COGS. All of that is involved in operations. Okay, so these operations itself will be converting it into a monetary plan called as budgets, which we will study in the further slides. So now when you look at this, strategic plans will just give you a direction, what you need to achieve in the long run. Tactical plans will further break them down, and actual achievement of objectives takes place in the short term. Okay, so in the short term, the short-term plans are related to the practical capabilities of the organization, and strategic will always be directional. Okay, so next up, so this topic is very important, the strategic planning process. Strategic planning process has 5 steps: mission, vision, values, and goals. The second step is analyzing the external environment. The third step, analyzing the internal environment. Then we will be formulating and selecting these strategies. At the end, development and implementation of strategies. So what is this 5 steps? Okay, so these are the main steps of creating strategies for the organization. So first up, we'll be focusing on the mission, vision, values, and goals. So what is this mission? Mission is our reason to be. Why should an organization even exist? So that is answered by mission. Let's take an example of iPhone. Why does iPhone company, Apple company exist? They say we need to create some very good, durable products to the customers, phones and computers to the products, electronic gadgets to them, which will give them maximum utility over the long time period. And it will be distinctive, very distinctive from other mobile phones given by other companies. They say this. So their vision is to give very durable mobile phones and computers to customers. That is their mission. And what is their vision? So their vision will be in the next 10 years, or already Apple company is at the top. Their vision will be to remain in the top 1 position and maximize their profitability hereafter, forever. That can be their vision. Where does a company see itself in the next 10 years or next 5 years? That is vision. The future position that we need to achieve. That is our vision. Then comes values. So values is about the company's culture. Okay. So we are sure about what we need to deliver to the customers and where we need to stand in the next 10 years. How are we going to achieve this? What will be our behavior? That will be values. So organization should have a very good behavior towards all of its stakeholders, because when behavior of the organization and its employees is not satisfactory to your stakeholders, nobody will be continuing their corporate relationship, and it will impact us in the long run. Okay, so values speak about having good respect towards our stakeholders. Then goals. So goal is nothing but it is a measurable future aim that we need to achieve. Okay, so goals should always be very specific. So goal is not saying that you have to earn more profits in next year. That's not a goal. You should say, I need to earn 3 million profit in next year. That is good. It should be exactly precise and measurable. Then goals are further broken down into objectives. Objectives is nothing but small steps that we take to achieve our goals. So this is what we need to be clear in our first step of strategic planning. Then comes step 2, analysis of external environment. So external environmental factors will always be out of our control. We don't have any control over that. So what can be done by analyzing the external environment? If we don't have the control over it, why should we analyze it? Because our external environmental factors, even though we don't have any control over them, we can convert them into our advantages. By analyzing, you can convert the external environment scenarios into your advantage. Okay, so for example, right now we are in the zone of Middle East war. So now the negative impacts is we are running in short of natural gas, LPG and CNG. So you can take an advantage of this. So you can start producing automobiles which run on EV. That will be your advantage. That is how you turn the negative circumstances into your benefit. So that is why we will analyze external environment. Okay. And we have heard of this SWOT analysis. In this SWOT, SWOT, OT, that is opportunities and threats, will be our external factors. Strength and weakness will be our internal factors. Okay. And then in our external environment analysis, there is a proper pattern in which we will analyze it. So first up, industry analysis. First, we should know about the industry in which we exist. We should have adequate knowledge about our industry, our competitors, what are their strategies, what are our strategies, where do we stand in our industry. So all this analysis should be done. What are the pros and cons of our industry? Then national and international environment analysis. Here we focus on the political factors mainly. Okay, so what about the political parties in a country? Are they supportive to our industry or not? Okay, so in the long run, what will be the impact of this political party's decision on our business? What do we have to plan for next years? That is what we do in national and international environment. And in international environment, you will also have to focus on global markets. Are global markets accepting your product or not? Do you have any global competitors for your product? That you need to analyze. Then comes macro environment. Macro environment is all binding. Okay, so here you will focus on all the economic factors such as inflation, deflation, recession, and also this interest rate variations, then foreign exchange rate variations, everything we will focus on in our macro environment. So this is how we conduct our external environment analysis. And then there is one more popular analysis, external analysis, which is Michael Porter's 5 forces model. We'll discuss this in the next slide. Okay. Then moving on to the third step, analyzing our internal environment. So internal environment is very opposite to our external environment. In internal environment, all the circumstances that are taking place inside our business, we will have complete control on them. So we will completely have control on our strengths and weaknesses. So we can improvise our strengths and correct our weaknesses. Okay. So now, what do we analyze in internal environment? So it is about resources and capabilities. What are the resources I possess currently? And out of these resources, what will be my capability? How many products I can produce? Will that be sufficient to satisfy my customers? And will that be sufficient for topping in the industry? So this is about resource and capabilities. Okay. Then comes an important concept of competitive advantage. So guys, in your own words, can you tell me what is competitive advantage? What is meant by competitive advantage? In simple words, you can answer. Having a sustainable growth in market. Good. High profits over its competitors. Perfect. Yes. So competitive advantage means, in simple words, staying at the top in your industry, topping all the companies in your industries and staying at the top. Okay. So how do you define competitive advantage? So those companies at the top will have the aim of achieving above average profits when compared to other companies in the industry. Got it? So competitive advantage is like scoring first rank in the class. But once in 10 years, if you score first rank in the class, nobody values that. Okay. So we will have to convert our competitive advantage into sustained competitive advantage. So what does that mean? Not topping your industry once or twice, but being at the top always. Okay. So that is sustained competitive advantage. Having sustained competitive advantage is very important. Okay. So now to achieve these competitive advantages, we will require our distinctive competencies. So what are these distinctive competencies? So achieving sustained competitive advantage is not so easy. You should have your own uniqueness and standards in your company that will help you reach the top. That is our distinctive competencies. So there are 4 distinctive competencies. We'll discuss them in detail in the next slide. Then moving on to the 4th step. It is about formulating and selecting the strategies. Now, when you analyze your external and internal environment, you will know what are the strategies you need to formulate. Okay. And among the formulated strategies, you will select the best one. So now, when you are formulating the strategies, there are 3 levels of strategies that you need to formulate: functional level, business level, and corporate level. Okay. Functional level, again, with the day-to-day operations, wherever you listen this functional, operational, day-to-day, it just means our core business activities. Then business level. So we'll slightly view in the terms of our business. Okay. Our business position in our industry. That is what we see in business level. Then again, moving on to the next top level, which is corporate level. Corporate level, you will be having the bird's eye view. That means you will see the exact future of your business in the corporate level. So on a very long term, you will plan. Okay. So after formulating and selecting the strategies, we'll again discuss this in detail in the following slides. Okay. Then comes our 5th step, which is implementing the strategies. Now you are ready with your strategies. You know exactly what to do. Now how to implement? Now based on your strategy, you will be planning all the procedures in the firm. Procedures in the sense how production has to take place, how many days of production is required. After production, where does your products move? Everything you will have a clear-cut idea. And for implementing this, you should require something called as organizational design. Organizational design means your entire organizational structure. You need to build job positions based on your strategy. So building these job positions is nothing but creating the various jobs in lower level, middle level, and top level management. So in one word, we call it as organizational structure. Then control systems. Once you have planned everything and allotted the responsibilities, you should have a proper control whether all your employees are functioning according to the requirements. Are there any changes or updations required? You will have a proper control over it. That is control systems. Then comes organizational culture. Okay. So organizational culture on a long run, as I told you, it's very important to build some good corporate relationships. So we will have to give respect to our stakeholders and take respect from them. That is the concept of organizational culture. So these are the 5 steps of our strategic planning process. Now, let us discuss about the Michael Porter's 5 forces model. So we studied this topic in our external environment analysis. Okay. So what does Michael Porter say? He says when we are analyzing our external environment, there are 5 majorly important things that you need to analyze. First up, the threat of new entrants. That means how easy it is for your competitors to enter your business. So let us say, for example, if you have a fashion brand, okay, so that is a very highly competitive industry right now. Anybody can easily enter into fashion industry and they can exit easily. So there is a threat of new entrants. Threat of new entrants is more. That means anybody can easily enter your industry and leave. You can, any time you can get your number of competitors increased. That's your threat. Okay. Suppose new entrants are finding it very difficult to enter into your industry. Why? Because they need licenses, patents, and permissions. At that time, it will be difficult for them. So, threat of new entrants will be less. Then comes rivalry among existing firms. Okay, so now we will have many competitors in our industry. What is the intensity of competition? How intense the competition is? That is what we check in rivalry among existing firms. If the competition is more, again, that is a threat for you. And in the long run, you should know how to step out of the competition and remain distinctive. Else, you will have the threat of closing your business. Then comes the third force, which is bargaining power of buyers. So, when do the buyers get a bargaining power? So now we can think in our perspective because we are buyers. We have bought at least one thing in our lifestyle. So now, as a buyer, when do I get a bargaining power? When I have 10 to 15 shops at the stretch. So I will be having a choice to select from. So I'll bargain saying that if you don't give me at the lower price, I will switch on to the next supplier because there are many suppliers in the market. Okay. So whenever one person needs to get a bargaining power, it is a chance only when they have n number of choices to choose from. And think there is only one particular shop. Okay. So with that only one particular shop, buyers will not bargain because they have only one choice to purchase from. Whatever price they are offered for, they will have to purchase. Okay. So we can take an example of right now, the problem of every or most of the Indian households to purchase LPG or the purchase of gas cylinders. They can't bargain. Whatever price they ask for, they will have to give and purchase because they don't have choice. Then comes bargaining power of suppliers. So think in the perspective of the suppliers. If you have hundreds together of buyers waiting for your raw materials, then you will have a choice. You will give it or sell it to the buyer who will pay you more, who will pay you the highest. Again, you will have a choice. Suppose you have only one buyer who is purchasing from you. At that point of time, you can't bargain with them. Okay. So they will, if they ask you to sell for a lower price, you will have to sell it because you have only one option. You can sell your products only to one buyer. Okay. So bargaining power, it increases when the person has many choices to choose from. If they don't have any, they can't bargain. Then comes threat of substitutes. Substitutes. That means if we don't purchase this product, what will be our immediate substitute? So right now we'll again apply this concept to the present situation of households. Right now there is difficulty in getting the gas cylinders. Now what they do, they'll go to the substitutes. They'll purchase electronic stoves. Okay. So if there are many substitutes for the product, again buyers will get options. If options is more, then again bargaining power will be more and they will have the choices. They will just shift their suppliers. Okay. Now all these five forces, the stronger the forces, the greater will be our threats. Okay. And weaker the forces, the greater will be our opportunities. That is how we need to decode this. So Michael Porter's five forces model, they will be giving you a scenario. Mostly they'll give you scenario. Based on that scenario analysis, you will have to answer. Okay. So next up, we will be moving into our strategies, functional level, business level, and corporate level strategies. So this comes in planning our strategies. Okay. So now in the functional level strategy, we will have our four distinctive competencies. Functional level strategy means it is speaking about the core operations of the business. And in the core operations, we will have to focus on improving company's effectiveness and efficiency of its operations. Okay. So how do we do that? So we will have four options. So these are the same as our distinctive competencies. These are the four distinctive competencies. So if you have all these four distinctive competencies strong in your company, It will build your competitive advantage. Okay. So first up, we have superior efficiency. Superior efficiency in the sense to have the top one efficiency among all the companies. Your company should be most efficient in producing the goods. So how can we be more efficient? Efficiency is nothing but using less cost to produce the outputs. Within less cost, are you able to produce the outputs? So that is what we focus on, efficiency. So superior efficiency means the least amount of cost we have to incur in production process. Okay. So how do we do that? So we will have many options such as JIT, economies of scale, usage of proper technology. JIT, we know this. It's just-in-time inventory system. Okay. So it will help us to reduce unwanted inventory costs and unwanted production costs. Economies of scale means this is a concept. Okay. So whenever you purchase in bulk, you will get more discounts, isn't it? Than purchasing single units. If you purchase in bulk, you'll be getting more discounts. Similar concept. If they start producing more, then the cost they are incurring per unit of production will be less. That is the concept of economies of scale. Then comes proper usage of technology. So these are some of the factors that help us increase efficiency. Then it's about superior quality. Superior quality in the sense giving the most utility of the product to the customer. Customer should be very satisfied with your product's quality. That is when we reach superior quality. Okay. So it has to create high value to customers. Customers should feel that if they purchase the product once, they'll have the maximum satisfactory usage from that. That is quality. So product's excellence and reliability, both of the things will be needed by customers. So next up, we have superior innovation. Superior innovation in the sense being the best, giving the best features, most unique features to the customers. And the superior innovation, continuously companies will have to keep on innovating their products. Okay, because of the changing needs of customers. So they will have to focus on making the product attributes more unique. Then superior customer responsiveness. So if you achieve this first three levels, superior efficiency, quality, and innovation, 90% of customer responsiveness is already achieved. I'll tell you how. Think like a customer. So what are the things customers need? They want to purchase the products at the lowest price, reasonable price. They want highest quality for the price they are paying, and they want their products to be unique. So these are the basic things which customers need. So 90% of the customer satisfaction will already take place if we maintain these three distinctive competencies. Then one more thing added on to the superior customer responsiveness is proper customer feedback and proper customer support. Okay. So whenever customer needs any help from the company, they will have to give them satisfactory services. Okay, so these are the four distinctive competencies. Then next up, we have business level strategies. So what are the business level strategies? So these business level strategies mainly relate to the business position in the market. What is our business position in the market? We'll look on that. So we have four business level strategies, and each of them are very simple. Cost leadership, focused cost leadership, differentiation, and focused differentiation. So cost leadership is very simple. Okay. So if there are 10 companies in your industry, you have to give your products at the lowest cost, at the lowest price when compared to all your competitors. That is cost leadership. Okay. So lowest possible cost on a broad market in the sense, let's take for example, on the national level, if your product's brand is famous throughout the nation, throughout the country, at that point of time, you can practice cost leadership by giving the products at the lowest possible cost when compared to your competitors on the broad market. Okay. Then comes focused cost leadership. So what is this focused cost leadership? So the same concept of producing the products at the lowest possible cost, but in the narrow market segment. Okay, so we'll take a comparative view on this. Let us assume a cloth brand. So we'll assume the cloth brand Biba. Okay, so Biba has its presence throughout the nation. Everybody knows Biba brand, and comparatively it is giving us cheaper, less price dresses for women. Okay, now focused cost leadership will be within the state if we have a particular cloth brand. Okay, so let us take, for example, the Mysore silk sarees that is available for the people of Karnataka. So in a narrow market range, we are getting this product for a lowest cost. Okay, so if it is in a narrow market segment, then we will call it as a focused cost leadership. If it is on a broad market range, we call it as a cost leadership. Okay, then comes differentiation. Differentiation in the sense uniqueness. Okay, our products have to be most unique when compared to other products in the market. So can you guys give me an example for differentiation? What is the best example you guys can think for differentiated products? Which products do you think have most uniqueness and none of the other products can beat them? iPhone, yes. Okay, only iPhone as an example. No other examples? Okay, so when it comes to automobiles, we can also choose Lamborghini, and also we can choose Rolls-Royce. All of them are very differentiated products. Okay, and they don't have close substitutes. Okay, Dyson Airwrap, good. Classmate books, perfect, good. Now, let us move on to the concept of focused differentiation. Focused differentiation in the sense you will focus only on the narrow market range. Okay, just a minute. Okay, we will focus on a narrow market range, on a niche market. Okay, so here we will be having a very small customer group to focus on. We can sell our differentiated products only to a very small group of customers. Okay, let me ask you a question now. Now, among these 4 business level strategies, which one do you think is most challenging? Among all of these 4, which business level strategy can easily lead the business to shut down? Any answers? Okay. So among the 4 business level strategies, the most dangerous one will be focused differentiation. You know why? Focused differentiation. Differentiation in the sense, already you are making your product very unique for a particular group of customers. Only small group of customers. Okay. Suppose your customers' tastes and preferences are changing. So they will easily shift themselves into a newer product, a newer sort of product. Then you will not have any customers left in your market, in your niche market to purchase your products, because it is already in a niche market where there are only few buyers. And among the few buyers, again, you are being selective only for a particular group of customers. Okay, which is very small number of customers. So easily it will lead to business failures if they don't plan their strategies well. So focused differentiation will easily cause a business to shut down if not planned properly. All of them, if not planned properly, all of them will lead to failures. But among all of them, the most challenging one will be focused differentiation. Okay. So moving on to the next level of strategies, which is corporate level strategies. So in the corporate level strategies, we have 5 strategies planned. So what is meant by this corporate level strategies? It involves a long-term perspective. That means in a bird's eye view, where do we see our company in the future, in the next 10 years, in the next 15 years? That is what we call it as corporate level strategies. Okay. So we have 5 strategies here. First up, we have horizontal integration. Horizontal integration in the sense, companies will plan to merge with their competitors. Okay. So why do they choose to merge with their competitors? Let me give you an example. So if that is an industry where there is intense competition and it is becoming difficult for the competitors to compete with the largest performer among themselves, individually, if it becomes difficult for the competitors to compete in the industry, then they will merge together. Okay. So what is the purpose of merging together? Economies of scale. Again, now when you see both the companies' customers will merge. So both the companies merge together. They will have more number of customers than they used to have individually. Okay. Now they will get more orders combined, and the more production you make, the larger the economies of scale we will reach. Then increasing bargaining power. Why bargaining power is increasing? 2 customers are coming together. Okay. Competitors are merging together. Now they will have a stronger bargaining power against their raw material suppliers. They can bargain and make the raw material price to be reduced. Then increased differentiation. Both of their ideologies will come together, and now the products they used to sell as competitors, now they are merging the product features. Now more differentiation will be there. Okay. So the best example as of now, which I can give for horizontal integration, will be Vodafone and Idea. Both of them merged together. Now they have become a strong competitor. Then comes vertical integration. Okay. So vertical integration in the sense, so we know this basic supply chain. Okay. We'll take a small supply chain example where there is a raw material supplier and the manufacturing firm, and at the end we will have distributors. Okay. So there are 3 people involved in this simple supply chain: raw material supplier, manufacturer, and finished goods distributor. Okay. Now assume that we are manufacturers. Okay. If we are manufacturers and we integrate with our raw material provider, so we are moving backwards, isn't it? We are now in the second step, that is manufacturing stage. We are moving back to the first step, that is raw material provider. Now as we are merging backwards with our raw material supplier, it's called as backward integration. Okay. So we'll take another example. We being the manufacturers, if we are integrating with the finished goods distributors. Okay. So at that point of time, as we are moving forward in the supply chain, it is called as forward integration. So now forward integration is integrating with the companies that are close to your customer's product, that are close to your customers, reaching the products to your customers. That becomes forward integration. Suppose you are moving backwards towards the raw material provider. That is called as backward vertical integration. Now, what are the benefits of this vertical integration in the sense? People usually get confused between the benefits of horizontal integration and vertical integration. So that is why you should know the keywords better. If it is of economies of scale, bargaining power, differentiation, it is with horizontal. What about the vertical? You will be able to plan your production schedules properly. Why? Because you know the raw material requirements, you are having a good knowledge of raw material requirements, or how many products are required by your customers. Either way, either forward or backward, you know the requirement of either finished goods or raw materials. So you can plan your production schedules properly in your vertical integration. That is your benefit. Then comes strategic alliances. Okay, strategic alliance in the sense long-term cooperative relationships between companies for mutual benefit. That means two companies, they will simply enter into cooperative relationships. They both may belong to different industries or different companies altogether, but they will come together for good cooperative relationships and for a mutual benefit. So if I want to give you an example, we can take an example of strategic alliance between Tata and Starbucks. Okay, so if you have visited Starbucks anytime, there is a line written in their name board, a Tata alliance. So that means Starbucks is now having a strategic alliance with Tata company. So why do they have the strategic alliances? Tata Industries might be very good in procuring raw materials. Okay, procuring raw materials for very less price. Starbucks, they are very well known for their coffee flavors. Okay, so now if Tata is helping Starbucks to acquire raw materials for a lesser price, and Starbucks is able to get many customers now because they have reduced the cost, right? They'll get many more customers. Now, out of their cooperative relationships, both of them got mutual benefit. When the profit comes, both of them share it. That is how strategic alliances work. One company will be good in acquiring raw materials or production, or in management, they will be good. Another company will be good in customer service or production activities or anything that way. So they will combine their good qualities together so that both of them get the benefit. Then comes strategic outsourcing. We know about outsourcing. That means we will be assigning the task of our company to a third party, to an external party. So external specialists. So why do we do the strategic outsourcing is there are two reasons. First thing will be the other person or the other company will be very good at that task. For example, Tata company will, they choose their auditing firms, accounting firms. Accounting is also Tata's function itself, but they are allotting this duty to, let us say, KPMG. KPMG is a Big Four audit company. Now, why do they do that? KPMG has expertise in accounting and audit services. That is why Tata is giving this accounting services to KPMG. Okay, so that is one reason, because the other party, external party, is the best in doing that service. One more reason will be to reduce the costs. Okay, so we see many job outsourcings from USA into India. USA companies, most of them will hire workers from India. You know why? The cost of labor will be less when compared to the cost of labor in US. That is one more reason. Then comes diversification. Diversification means integrating with a company in an unrelated industry. So Tata Industries can be an example. Reliance can be an example. Okay, they'll have their brand, they'll have their entry, they'll have their products in various unrelated industries. That is diversification. So these are the 5 main corporate level strategies that we come across. Okay, so next up, we have other planning tools. So other planning tools, we have a simple analysis, which is called as PEST analysis. PEST stands for political, economic, social, and technological. So here, based on each of the analysis, again, you will be coming to know which are your opportunities and which are your threats. So political, you will be looking into trade regulations, wage laws, political stability, and so on. In economic analysis, you will be again looking into economic factors such as exchange rates, inflation, interest rates, GDP, and so on. And in social, you'll be moving towards your customers' needs. You'll be looking into demographics. Demographics means what age group of customers you need to focus on and what sort of income level of people with what income level is purchasing your products more. So understanding more about your customers is there in the social aspect of pest analysis. Then comes technological. So in technological, you'll be focusing on new tech developments or innovation trends that are in your industry. Then we always know about SWOT analysis: strength, weakness, opportunity, and threat. Strength and weakness is internal to us. Opportunity and threat is external to us. Next up, we have an important analysis, which is BCG growth matrix. Okay, so before that, there is one more type of planning we should know about: contingency planning. Okay, so contingency planning is what if planning. What if planning in the sense we ourselves will assume what might happen in the future. Before it occurs, we will plan well in advance. Okay, so for example, right now, again, we'll take the same example: Middle East war. Suppose you are in a food and beverages industry. You are having a restaurant chain of your own. You will have to plan for future because now you are in a very critical situation where your industry is facing so many issues. Now what do? You will plan a contingency planning. So according to this, we will have a plan. What if war doesn't stop for the next 2 years? What will be our strategy? What if war stops in this year itself? What if this war leads to further shortage of natural gas? Like this, you will plan many scenarios, and for all of them, you will have the strategies ready, because we should always be proactive. Proactive in the sense, before any situation occurs, we should be ready to face it. That is what we achieve in contingency planning. Then, next up, we have one more important concept: BCG matrix. So let us go through this BCG matrix. So here, this way you will be having your market growth, and upwards. Sidewards, you will have to analyze for market growth. Upwards, analyze for market share. Okay. So what is this BCG matrix? This matrix is completely speaking about what sort of companies are present and how do they earn money or spend money. So let us understand this with an example of a scenario. Suppose let us take a startup. Okay. Every business starts as a startup itself. So now, as a startup, they will enter the BCG matrix through question mark. Because why question mark? They don't know whether their startup will perform well in the market or not. That's why they enter as a question mark. So question mark, what is present? They have a low market share. Guys, always remember, your market share refers to the income you are receiving, cash generation. Okay. Market share is speaking about cash generation, what cash you are generating from the market. And growth speaks about what cash you are expending in the market. Spending is with growth. Share speaks about your cash collections from the market. Okay. So when you enter as a startup, obviously your cost will be more than whatever you are generating. So you will have higher growth and lower share. Now let us assume that this startup was Zomato, and we know that Zomato was a blockbuster startup. Okay, so now as they improve as a startup, they start performing very well in the market. So now what happens when they start performing well? They will get many orders, they'll get many customers. So at that time, what happens? Their growth will be high. That means they will have to spend more for producing more and more products, because their products have become more in demand in the market. At the same time, more customers will be willing to purchase. So their market share will also be more. Share is also more, growth is also more. Okay. Then if they still continue to perform well, they will enter into the next stage, which is cash cow. So cash cow is a position where you are generating a lot of cash. Cash income is very high when compared to your cash outflows because of economies of scale. Okay. So here you are in a high share and low growth level in the cash cow. Companies again will have to decide. This is a maturity stage. Okay. In the cash cow stage, already most of the competitors will be there in that industry. Now this company has a threat. So what they will have to do? They should decide whether they will be making their products more and more innovative, or going to enter into the last position. Okay, so they will have to make a decision whether they will be innovating or not. If they innovate, they will again jump into question mark because they don't know whether their innovation will work or not. Or if it works, they will enter into star. Okay, suppose it doesn't work, they will enter into dogs. Okay, dog is low share, low growth. They don't have money to spend. They're not getting any income as well. Okay, so if a company exists, the matrix, it is through dog. They will exit the market if they are in a dog position. Now tell me, in this BCG matrix, which is the best position for making profits? Is it question mark, star, cash cow, or dog? Which is the best position for making profits? Hello guys, in the BCG matrix, which is the best position for making the profits? Is it a question mark, star, cash cow, or a dog? Guys, I'm speaking about profits. When do you get profit? When your cash income is more than cash outflows. Yes, it is cash cow because cash cow is the only position. If you see, your income is more than outflows. So how to recognize income or outflows? As I told you, whenever you look at this share, it means your cash inflows, cash generation. Whenever you see this growth, growth means cash that you are expending. Your expenses are less than your income. That means you are earning a lot of profits in a cash cow position. So always remember, cash cow position is the best position where companies will milk all the gains. That is the keyword that we use here, milking all the gains when we are in a cash cow position. Okay. Yes. So this completes our planning concept. All of you are clear with the planning concept? You can quickly type in yes in the chat box, or if you have any doubts regarding planning, you can ask me. All 10 of you. Perfect. Okay, so next up, moving on to forecasting techniques. So what is this forecasting in a sense? Forecasting is nothing but predicting what will happen in our future. Okay, so when do we predict what will happen in our future? When we don't know what are the exact figures. That is when we expect. That is when we predict. So in business also, prediction is very much important. What do we need to predict? We should know. Right now we are in 2026. In 2027, what will be the demand for my company's product? What will be the sales that I will be reaching in the next year? All these things, I should have a forecast ready. Okay, so I should have a forecast. What will be my expected sales in the coming year, 2027? So like this, to analyze what our sales will be, what our profits will be, what our expenditure will be in the next period, we need forecasting techniques. So in the forecasting techniques, first up, we have regression analysis. Regression analysis is one of the simplest and most useful statistical method for finding out the unknowns. Okay, so here you just have to focus on two things, dependent variable and independent variable. So dependent variable is what we will find out. Okay, in our example, we don't know what will be next year's sales. So we will find out sales in the dependent variable. Y will be equal to sales in our example. And independent variable means the thing that we already know. Okay, so independent variables is the points or is the information that we already know. Using that information, we will be finding out the dependent variable. Okay, so how can we find out Because there will be an interrelationship between this dependent variable and independent variable. Okay, so there is obviously an interrelationship between sales and cost of goods sold. There is again a very good interrelationship between sales and gross profit. Okay, so such variables we can easily find out using regression analysis. Okay, now in the regression analysis, there are two types of methods that we can use. First up, we have time series method, mostly used one. Okay, then we have casual forecasting. First, we'll learn about time series method. In time series method, you'll use the historical pattern of one variable and we will extrapolate the points. Okay, let me tell you an example. So, in the year 2020, you have observed a profit of 10,000. Okay, in 2020, your profit is 10,000. And in 2021, your profit is 20,000. 2022, 30,000. 23, 40,000. 25, it was 50,000. And in 26, it is 60,000. Now, there is a pattern. Easily you will be able to analyze. In 2027, it will be 70,000. Okay, like this. With respect to time, if your values are changing, you can use time series method. In the year 2026, our sales is somewhere around 500,000 products. So in the next year, it can be 550,000 products, like this. Based on the time, we will analyze. So in the time series method, always remember our independent variable will always be what? What will be our independent variable in the time series method? Let me see who answers. What is our independent variable in time series method? Years. So you have to call it as time. So time will always be our X in time series method. And with respect to time, you can find out anything in your dependent variable. It can be your sales, profit, COGS, expenses, anything. Okay. But your independent variable will always be time. Then comes casual forecasting. In casual forecasting, we will determine a cause and effect relationship between dependent and independent variables. Okay. So what is cause and effect relationship? That means there will be a very specific interrelationship between variables. For example, sales and COGS. Both of them have a very good cause and effect relationship. If sales is increasing, as we are selling more units, cost of goods sold will also increase. So that is cause and effect relationship. Okay. And people usually confuse between cause and effect relationship and correlation. Okay. These two are two different things. You should be careful about this. Correlation in the sense, if one random variable is increasing, the other will also increase along with it, or it will decrease along with it. Okay. That is correlation. Causation in the sense, there is a well-defined cause and effect relationship between dependent and independent variables. I'll give you an example. So past 5 years, you are assume that you are analyzing a company's data, financial data. And for the past 5 years, so you have analyzed that as and how your depreciation expense is increasing, your advertising expense is also increasing. Carefully listen to this. As your depreciation is increasing, your...
Thank you. You're going early?
Yeah. Joshna, can you please mute yourself?
Sorry, ma'am.
Yeah. Okay. So now carefully listen to this. If you have observed a pattern that as and how your depreciation is increased, the depreciation expense is increasing from the past 5 years, your advertisement expense is also increasing similarly. So tell me whether there is a cause and effect relationship between depreciation and advertising. If yes, you can type in yes. If no, you can type in no. Is there a cause and effect relationship between depreciation and advertising expenses? Correlation is there. Yes. So Analyze whether cause and effect relationship is there between depreciation and advertising expenses. Yes or no? Is there cause and effect relationship between depreciation and advertising expenses? No. Perfect. Because depreciation, perfect. Depreciation and advertising expenses are never related to each other. But as you have observed the pattern from past 5 years that both of them are increasing, there may be correlation. But if there is a correlation, that never proves causation. Got it? Very good. Correlation doesn't prove causation. Perfect. So I'm seeing your name as user. Can you please change your name? Okay, guys. So next up, we have trend line. So what is this trend line? It's very simple. So in the time series method, if you draw a regression line in the time series data, that regression line on time series graph will be called as a trend line. So what is this regression line? So if you guys have seen the graph where you plot the values, right? So exactly you will draw a line in the, you will insert a line in between the points whichever you have plotted on time series data. So that regression line is called as trend line. Got it? So then comes a line of best fit. So once look at the graph, you will come to know the regression line. Then comes the line of best fit. What happens in this line of best fit in the sense? Why do we call it as a line of best fit in the sense? So when you draw a regression line, if there are equal number of points above and below the line. So what is this trend line? That is the line that you are inserting exactly in the middle of your plotted data on your time series graph. If this line, regression line or trend line is in such a way that it has equal number of points on above and below the trend line equally, that is a line of best fit. Okay. So the plotted data that you draw on a time series graph, the data that you plot on a time series graph, that is the actual data which you are seeing. And this regression line that you draw, that is your expected data. Okay. So when you see the actual data varying from your regression line, that is called as a residual. That means your actual data is deviating from your expected data. Whenever you find this deviation, that's called as residual. Okay. So you just need to understand this concept. If you've understood, well and good. Then the next thing that we have to focus on, this equation is very important. Okay. For this trend line of best fit, just need to understand it. And even this residual, which is the deviation from your regression line. And important thing that you need to know is correlation is not proving causation. Okay. And then in the multiple regression, you will have one dependent variable and more than one independent variable. This thing you should know. So simple linear regression equation, which is y equals to a plus bx. This is very important. Y is the dependent variable, what we are finding. Then a is constant coefficient. The other name is y-intercept. You should memorize all these data with respect to simple linear regression. Then x is independent variable. Then b is the variable coefficient or slope. Okay. Then advantages and disadvantages of regression analysis. So what are the advantages? So it is a quantitative method. So just because it is a quantitative method, how do we call it as an advantage? Because whenever you see quantitative data, you can get exact results. Okay. If it is a qualitative data, then the results that each person will analyze from that will be different. We can't arrive at one exact solution when it is qualitative data. But if it is quantitative data, only one number can be an answer. Okay, that is why it is an advantage. Precisely, we will come to know what will be our dependent variable. Okay, then the next usage of this will be in finding out our fixed and variable costs. Okay, so guys, I'll ask you one more question. In this simple linear regression, which value do you allocate with fixed cost and which one do you allocate with variable cost? In this, y equals a plus bx. One is a fixed cost variable and another one is a variable cost variable. Can you guys tell me which ones are they? Which value reciprocates with fixed cost and which one does with the variable cost? A is variable. Are you sure? Perfect. Yeah. So A is fixed and B is variable. Good. So why B is variable? Because we know that variable cost per unit will be fixed. Okay. And this variable cost per unit, when you multiply it with the number of units produced or sold, you will be getting total variable cost. That is exactly what is said here. B will be equal to your variable cost per unit and X will be equal to number of units. But fixed cost, irrespective of units, it will be same. That is why A will be independent here. Perfect. Then moving on with the disadvantages. So when you look at a regression equation, you should know X value. One value should be known. Only then you can find out the other. That means historical data should be there. Or else regression analysis itself is not possible. Then the next disadvantage is how can we trust this past data that it is useful in the current situation also? We know that we exist in a dynamic business environment. How can we trust our past data to be useful in the current and future scenarios as well? That is again a question mark. So these are the advantages and disadvantages of regression analysis. Okay, guys. So now we can take a break for some time and we'll be starting the session again from 5:45. Hello guys, are you all back? Shall we continue? Okay. So next up, we need to know about the learning curves. Okay. So one of our forecasting techniques will be learning curves. So here, what is meant by this learning curve? So assume a labor-intensive industry. Okay. So as far as we involve human capital, there will be this learning experiences. Okay. As in how a person gets more and more experience, the time that they are taking for completing the task will go on reducing. Okay. Assume that there are 10 employees and each of them are taking 1 hour for producing a product. Okay. So assume that they got 5 years experience. And after 5 years of experience, they will not use the same 1 hour for producing the product. Now their learning curve will be improved. 5 years of experience will help them to reduce the time that they are taking for producing the products. Now it can be reduced to, let us say, half an hour for producing a product. So like this, and experience with the task increases, it improves the efficiency and time that we are consuming for producing a product will reduce. Okay. This concept is called as learning curve. The time that we are taking for producing the unit for the first time will be the maximum one. So later, as we go on producing the second product, third product, fourth product, the time that we are consuming will be less. Okay. This concept is called as learning curve. Now, we calculate the learning curve and what time we were able to reduce using a learning curve percentage. So what is this learning curve percentage? So this learning curve percentage says us that what amount of the time that we consumed initially are we consuming right now. Let us say, for example, if it is a learning curve percentage of 80%. So what does it say? It is saying that earlier, you used to take 100% of your time for producing the product. Now, you are just taking 80% of that time in producing this product. That means 20% of the time you have reduced. Let us take another example. A learning curve of 60%. It says you that you're now consuming only 60% of your total time to produce the products after learning. Before you used to consume 100% of your time. So now you have eliminated 40% of the time. You're able to complete it within 60% of the time you used to take initially. So this is the concept of learning curve percentages. And always remember, learning curve percentage is any percentage that is greater than 50% and less than 100%. Okay. So why is this criteria involved? Why it should be greater than 50% and less than 100%? There is a reason behind it. Okay. So to understand this reason, I'll give you an example. Everyone can note it down or you can listen to it carefully. So assume that we are consuming 100 hours for producing our first product. For the first product, we are consuming 100 hours. Okay, this is done already. 100 hours are consumed for producing the first product. Then, if it is a learning curve percentage of 45%, what does it imply? I'll tell you. So, it implies that we are consuming 45 hours of this total 100 hours for producing two products, first two products. Okay. So for first product, already we have consumed 100 hours. For second product, at least 1 hour should be extra that we have consumed. But if it is a learning curve percentage of any percentage below 50%, it states that you are consuming negative hours. That means this 100 hours already we have consumed. Take any percentage less than 50% and calculate. You will get your total time less than 100 hours. And that is not practically possible at all, because for the first product already we have consumed 100 hours. For second product, at least 1 hour extra we should have consumed. But if you calculate the total time using this learning curve percentage of less than 50%, it will give you a number that is less than 100 hours, which is practically not possible. Then moving on with the learning curve percentage of 100%. If it is 100%, what does it say? In the second product, when you're producing the second product, you're using this 100% of time, complete time you're using. And that is also not practically possible. Once we gain an experience in a work, the second time we do the same work, we'll gain efficiency. We will consume less time. But 100% of learning curve says we are not consuming any time lesser than the time we initially took. That is also not possible. Some learning will take place. So always remember, learning curve percentage will always be greater than 50% and less than 100%. Okay. So it cannot be equal to 50% because it will give us the exact time that we took for producing the first unit, which is not practically possible. At least 1 hour we could have taken extra for producing the second product. And it can't be 100% either. Now, there are two models that we have for calculating the learning curve time that we have consuming. So, the two models are cumulative average time model and incremental unit time model. Okay. So, what is this cumulative average time model? That means for producing an extra unit, so let us say, for example, the average time per unit for all units produced so far will be calculated under cumulative average time model. So now if we have consumed 160 hours, I'm giving you an example, 160 hours for producing 10 products. Now average time per unit we will be involved will be 16 hours per unit. 160 hours for 10 products, 16 hours for one product each. That is what we calculate in average time model. Okay. And the model that we use for calculations is also cumulative average time model itself. Here we focus mainly on calculating average time per unit that we have consumed. Okay. And we have two formulas. One is to calculate the average time and the other one is to calculate the total time. Okay. So the average time, you can use this formula. The time that you have taken for the first unit multiplied with learning curve percentage to the power n. So what is this to the power n? It speaks about the number of doublings. Okay. So now what is this number of doublings? So this concept is saying us that each time we are doubling our production. What is this doubling? First time you have produced 1 unit. The second time you will produce 2 units. And the third time you will be producing 4 units and followed by 8 units like this. Each time you are producing the product, it is getting, the number of units that you are producing is getting doubled. Okay. So as in how the production is getting doubled, our learning curve experience is also increasing. Got it? So n refers to the number of doublings that we are taking. So if it is from 1 unit to the next unit, first unit you have produced and the next doubling will be 2 units. That will be 1 doubling. Okay. And then from 2 units till 4 units when you move, that becomes 2 doublings. Again, when you move to the 8 units, that becomes 3rd doubling. Okay. So like this, you need to calculate for the doublings. And then mostly tested question will be, they will be asking you, what is the time that you have consumed in total for producing 8 units? And guys, this doublings, they will not give you exactly 1 unit or 2 units. It can be any number of units. Sometimes they will be giving you in lots. or sometimes they'll be giving you in terms of batches. Okay, you should be able to understand per lot what is the units that we have. For example, one lot may consist of 10 products, or one lot may consist of 50 products. In terms of lots, they can give you one lot, two lot, four lots, 8 lots, like this they can give you. And they might ask you for calculating for units. Okay, you should just be, it's very simple. You should just be able to know for 8 lots, how many units you will have produced. Okay, so if you practice numericals, you'll be getting to understand that. So now this number of doublings you will have to calculate and substitute that value into the formula. Then one more thing that you need to remember here is they can ask you for odd numbers. Okay, so how can they ask you for odd numbers? I'll take a simple example and explain. Okay, guys. Now assume we are taking the doublings from 1 to 2 units. So next it will be 2 plus 2, 4 units. The next doubling will be 4 plus 4, 8 units. Okay. So now how many doublings are involved here in this calculation? All of you type in your answers in the chat box. How many number of doublings are there? Perfect. There are 3 doublings. Very good. Okay. So now you can expect questions like they can ask you for calculating the total time taken for 7 units. So this is an odd number question. Now how do you calculate this? You can take it as 8 units. Okay. You can calculate the total time for 8 units. Then you can subtract the total time you have taken for first unit. If you do this, you will be arriving at total time taken for 7 units. Okay, this is how you need to allocate. Okay, then if it is in terms of batches, they will give you in terms of units. Assume the same question for lots. Okay, and let us assume each lot is consisting of 50 units. Okay, and now you will come to know for producing 8 lots, you will have produced somewhere around 400 units. Okay, and now they can ask you for calculating the time that you consumed for 350 units. Okay, so now how do you allocate this? 400 units is nothing but for 8 lots. 350 units will be for 7 lots. Again, same calculation. You will calculate it for 400 units first. Total time for 400 units first. Then subtract the total time you took for first lot, 50 units. Then you will be arriving at the time consumed for 350 units. Okay, everybody is clear with the learning curve calculations. If it is for total time, you can apply the total time formula. If it is for average time, again you can use average time formula. Any doubts with learning curve calculations? Okay. And guys, one more thing that you have to remember is learning curve, always take it in decimals. Okay. And when you multiply it with 2, again, you have to make sure learning curves that you're taking is in decimals. Practice as number of questions as possible. Okay. You should be able to understand what is required and how you have to find out the logic of calculation. Okay. Okay. Now, the key formulas that will be important for you will be average time formula and total time formula. So now, average time. Average time is nothing but time that you take for the first unit production into learning curve to the power n, number of doublings. Then, Total time will be time taken for first unit into 2 into LC. Here is what I told you. First multiply 2 with the learning curve percentage or anything. 0.8. 80% learning curve will be 0.8. 2 multiplied with 0.8, 1.6. 1.6 you will have to square it, or you will have to find out the cube based on number of doublings. Okay. Then next up we have the concept of incremental unit time model. We don't use this model for calculation, but we'll understand the meaning. Incremental unit time model states that we will have to find out what is the time we are consuming for producing the last unit or the additional unit. Okay. Incremental, the word incremental itself will say that what is the time or cost involved in producing the last unit, that is one more additional unit. Okay. Then where do we apply this learning curve concept is when we are producing or preparing our production budgets. In our production budgets, we will be including raw material requirements and the labor cost that is being incurred and manufacturing overhead. So in this labor cost, we have to apply this concept of learning curve so that we are preparing a proper budget. Then make or buy decisions. Okay, make or buy decisions in the sense, this works on a cost benefit analysis. Okay, so companies usually focus on cost benefit analysis. Only when their benefit is greater than cost, anybody for that matter will make a decision. Okay, in make versus buy as well, you will find out a distinction. What is the cost that you're incurring for producing the product in-house? In the sense, you will consider direct material cost, direct labor cost, manufacturing overhead cost, and all together you will compare with the purchasing price. If you buy it from outsiders, what is the price? Whichever is the less price, you will go for it. And there again, you will be requiring this labor costs. Then what are the limitations of learning curve? So here, only for labor intensive industries, we can use this. If an industry is oriented towards the use of machines, then we can't use this learning curve concept. Then learning rate is assumed to be constant. Okay, so when it comes to the practical application of this learning curves, so from year 2026 till 2027, the learning might have taken place at a percentage of 80%. Next year, there is no surety that 80% itself is the learning. It can be 60%, it can be 70%. But what do? We just assume the constant rate all the time in labor time calculations. That is again one of the limitations. So in learning curve, you should be proficient with the concept and this statement. Learning curve should always be in between 50% and 100%. Then with the formulas, average time and total time formulas. Okay. So next up, we are moving on with probability. So probability is a very simple concept to understand, but when you solve the application questions, you should be clear. Okay, so probability has two requirements. Each probability value must be in between 0 and 1. Okay, in decimals, if you represent, it should be in between 0 and 1. If you represent it as a percentage, it should be in between 0% and 100%. Okay, then all the probabilities that you are choosing for various outcomes, for all the outcomes, you will choose probabilities. Let us say, for example, flipping a coin. If you flip a coin, there are two probabilities. There are two outcomes. Okay, and we allot probabilities for them. Head 50%, coin 50%. Add them both, it will be equal to 100%. Okay, so these are the two requirements for probability. Then what are the methods that we choose for assigning the probabilities? There are three methods: classical, relative frequency, and subjective. Classical is the simplest method. You'll just know what are the outcomes, how many number of outcomes are there. You will simply divide that number of outcomes by 100%. Let us say, for example, flipping a coin. There are two probabilities. Okay. You will assign equal probability for each outcome, 50% each. And again, you'll go with dice. Again, dice has 6 probabilities. You'll take 100%, divide it by 6, and you will find out. So for all the outcomes, equally you will divide the probabilities under the classical method. Then comes relative frequency method. So in relative frequency method, rather than blindly allotting the probabilities equally, so here we base on our historical data and the actual occurrence rates. So here we will analyze the historical data. So which outcomes have the maximum probability, which are most probably occurring. For them, you will give a slightly higher probability. Okay. And for the others, you will start giving a lower probability based on your historical experience. Okay. Then comes subjective. Okay. Subjective is the most complex one. At the same time, when compared to the three, that is most accurate one as well. Here what happens? No equal probabilities and no historical data. So here it will use the data plus experience plus intuition. That means actual data, whatever you have got, plus you will have an experience. Let's say, for example, you are running a shop for 10 years and you will know in which month you will have maximum sales, in which month you will have no sales, what is the behavior or what is the preference of your customers, everything you will be knowing. Based on that experience, again, it will help you to assign probability values. Okay. Subjective is the complex one, at the same time, accurate one. Then probability is all about calculating expected value. Expected value is weighted average of all possible outcomes using their probabilities as weights. So that means all the outcomes and whatever probability you have assigned for them, multiply them both and add them together. That gives us expected value. Okay. So this formula is very simple to understand. And when it comes to MCQs, you should come to know. In MCQs, especially scenario based, you will have to read it twice. Only then you will come to know what is the probability value assigned to them. So in MCQs, they will give you scenarios, and in that scenario, there will be again sub scenarios. Within a scenario, there will be some small scenarios involved in it. Okay. At that point of time, you will have to analyze how to allocate the probabilities. It will be simple itself, but read the question twice and analyze it. Okay. So next up, variance and standard deviation. Here, we will not get any calculations for variance and standard deviation, but you just need to understand. So variance is called as the weighted average square differences from the mean, also called as the dispersion. It's a measurement of risk. I'll explain in simple words what it means. Probability means our expectation, what we are expecting to occur. So our expectation, if it is different from the actual data that we got, we expected something, but the actual data was something. Probability is our expectation, and actual data that we get can be different from this. Okay. So if this difference between our expectation or the probability and the actual that took place, if it is more, that means we have more risk. Why? Because we are not able to estimate exactly how much sales we are getting. That means our external environment is very challenging that we are not able to estimate properly. So it leads to risk. The greater the difference between your actual data and the estimated data or the probability, the greater will be the risk. Greater the deviation, greater the risk. That's all it is. Then standard deviation. Again, it is a measure of variance itself. It is square root of variance. So here, higher standard deviation means higher risk. Higher risk is higher dispersion. Higher dispersion in the sense your actual data is very far from what you expected. Okay. Then used to measure the spread around the expected value. Your expected value is something else and your actual data is something else. That means there is risk. You are not able to estimate it properly, which leads to risk. Okay. Now let us understand what this expected value means. Okay. Here, expected value of 4.58 computers per day. What does this mean? If you take 1 year as an example, and when you find out the average of all the sales that you have done for all the 365 days, your average will be 4.58. That means in a common way, average number of computers you are selling per day. In 1 year will be 5 computers per day. So in one day you could have sold no computers. In the other day you could have sold 100 computers. But when you make out an average for 1 year per day, you have sold 5 computers on an average. That is what expected value means. Okay. Then simple thing that you have to remember is higher the variance, more risk is involved in the expected sales. That is what it means. Higher the variance or higher the standard deviation, higher is dispersion and higher is risk. Okay. Moving on to the next concept, which is budget methodologies. As of now, we have covered planning and forecasting. And the third segment of section B that we need to revise is budget methodologies. Okay, guys. So in your own simple words, how do you define budget? What is meant by budget? Estimation of revenues and expenses. Good. Okay. So it is made to manage expenses. Good. So now let us understand budget methodologies. So budget is nothing but you will have your operational data. Operational activities in the sense production, purchases, sales, and all of them. Okay. When you represent your operational plan in monetary terms, operational and financial plan, when you represent them in a monetary terms, that is called as budget. In even more simple words, your monetary plan for the coming year, that will be your budget. So now let us understand what is this budget methodologies. Okay. So in budget methodologies, we will have to focus on master budget concept first. Financial plan, good. Okay. So what is this master budget? Master budget is nothing but all the budgets that we prepare, starting from sales till cash budget. All the budgets combined together and put at one place is your master budget. Okay. Master budget is a complete financial plan for your coming year. So now master budget consists of full set of budgeted financial statements for the budget year. And it is also called as comprehensive budget. But master budget is again segregated into two budgets, which is operating budget and financial budget. So what is this operating budget? Operating, the word itself says the core operations that we perform in a business. So this operating budget will start including all our day-to-day operations. Okay, sales, production, purchasing, marketing, R&D, and also income statement. So income statement, it's a financial statement, but that is the last budget we prepare in operating budgets. This you should understand, because income statement is nothing but a summary of all our day-to-day operations. In one word, if I have to say, it is summary of all our revenues, expenses from our day-to-day operations. And at the end, we will come to know profit. That is why we include it in the operating budgets. Okay. Then you should remember, after operating budget ends with income statement, financial budget, we will start with balance sheet. Okay. So balance sheet is there, cash budget, budgeted balance sheet, and budgeted statement of cash flows and capex budget. Here again, one thing you need to focus is capex budget is not a pure financial budget. Capex budget, there is major distinction among capex budget and master budget. Other budgets in the master budget. Okay. Capex budget is prepared for more than 1 year. Capital expenditures budget. But all our other operating and financial budgets, they are prepared for 1 year. That is the major distinction. So what is the purpose of adding capex budget into financial budgets? Let me see. So let me assume that my capital expenditure plan is that I have to purchase plant and machinery worth 1 million in next 5 years. So in 2030, I want to purchase a plant and machinery, which is worth of 1 million. So 1 million, raising this huge fund at the time is very difficult for me. What do? I divide this 1 million into 5 years. Okay. 2 million every year I will have, 1 million, I'm dividing it into 5 years. So $200,000 every year I will have to collect. Only then in 2030, I will be able to purchase plant and equipment. Okay. So now we are in 2026 and we will be preparing the budget for 2027. So all the time, remember, we prepare the budget for next year, coming year. 2027, I'm preparing budget. And in my capital expenditures budget, I will mention that I will have to save somewhere around $200,000 for this year, 2027. Okay. So from 2026, 2027, 28, 29, 30, 5 years, if I'm able to save $200,000 every year, I will collect 1 million together and purchase plant and equipment. That is capex plan. Okay. A part of capital expenditure that we need to raise in this year, we will be including. Okay. This is financial budget. Now let me ask you all a question. Which is the first budget that we prepare and which is the last budget that is prepared? Guys, be quick. Which is the first budget prepared and which is the last budget prepared? Sales budget is prepared first. Good. Which is the last one? Cash budget is prepared at the end. Perfect. Pro forma cash flow statement. Now, so Ms. Ria, you will have to say it as cash budget. Okay, I'll explain what is this pro forma financial statements. It is not a part of master budget. Good try. Okay, so now static budget and flexible budget. Okay, so next distinction is in between static budget and flexible budget. Static budget is nothing but our master budget. That means whatever we have planned for our coming year, that is static budget. So here we will have estimated units and estimated costs. Okay, and when we calculate the variance in our static budget and actual data that we got, we will get the difference that is due to units produced. I might have estimated that next year I will have sales of somewhere around 1000 units, but actually the sales might have occurred will be 800 units. There is a difference in units itself. So this difference will be located in static budget. Next up, we have flexible budget. Okay, so flexible budget is the budget that we will adjust the units for actual units, but standard cost per unit will be remaining the same. Cost per unit is standard cost itself, but units, instead of taking standard units, I'm taking actual units here. I'm adjusting my data or budget into actual units. Okay, whatever actual units we have multiplied with the standard cost, we will be arriving at flexible budget. So both static and flexible budget have their own pros and cons, which we will discuss in detail in section C. Okay, so for now you can understand. Flexible budget will show us variance in estimated costs, not in the estimated units, because we are adjusting the budget for estimated units, for the actual units that have taken place. Okay, and the limitation is it cannot explain us why sales was declined. That means there was a change in units. 1000 units was what I estimated, but I was able to achieve only 800 units. Why did I reduce 200 units? This reason we will not come to know in flexible budget. Okay. Next up. Yeah. So there are various budget methods that we can use in preparing the budgets. Okay. So we understood master budget and we have operating budgets and financial budgets. will start from sales budget, end in cash budget. This cycle we are clear about. But what is the method we are choosing for preparing this master budget? We have various choices to choose from. Okay. First up, we have zero-based budget. If you want your budgets to be very accurate, you will have to start from scratch. So that is zero-based budget. So we will start the budgeting process from scratch. We will collect the primary data from the department. All the data will collect from the department from zero. Okay, so that is zero-based budgeting. But what happens is ZBB, it is very accurate. That is true. But what happens? It is a budget that consumes a lot of time. Especially for large departments, ZBB is practically not possible at all because they will have hundreds of costs. And for hundreds of costs, it is not possible for them to find out the primary base for all the hundreds of costs. So ZBB, it's very beneficial. But companies will be picky in which departments they will be using ZBB. Not in everything they'll use, only in some departments, which is most important, they'll be using zero-based budgeting. Okay, so here ZBB eliminates non-value adding costs and activities will be ranked according to cost benefit. Which are the activities that are most beneficial for us and which are the activities which we have to make more and more efficient. That will be ranked first. Huge workload will be there and review of all activities every year is required in ZBB. Then every activity must be justified with cost benefit analysis. Okay. So now every activity will be justified with cost benefit analysis. Yeah. If only we have a benefit greater than cost, we will be choosing that activity. So more we will be moving towards efficiency. Okay. So that is ZBB. It's very accurate and very much useful, but huge workload and lot of time consumed. So next up we have rolling budgets or continuous budgets. Suppose in your business, you want your budgets to be ready for the next 1 year. Any given month, you want it to be ready for next 1 year. At that point of time, you can choose rolling budgets. Okay. So what is rolling budget? Suppose my accounting year is from January till December. Okay. January till December of 2027, I have already prepared the rolling budget and kept it ready. Now, in the month of January 2027, again, I want my budgets to be ready till next 12 months. So, till January till December 2027, it's already ready. And in the end of January 2027, I will add next month, which is January 2028. Okay. Then again in February 2027, you will add February 2028. So that any given month, 12 months of budget is already in place. So the use of rolling budgets is you will be always ready with the budget. You need not panic if any changes are taking place because every day you will have kept your budget updated according to current business scenarios. Okay. Ready budget is there for you for next 1 year. Need not worry about it. But it is again time consuming, higher cost because you will have to place a budget committee itself for this. Every time budget committee should be active. They should be actively taking into consideration changes that are taking place. Okay. And this budget is prepared at end of each period for next 12 months ahead. Next up, we have project budget. Project budget is very simple. Assume we are getting a dam project assigned for us, for our company from government. Okay. For this dam construction project, what is the cost I am incurring and what is the contract price that government is giving to me? Okay. This cost and benefit analysis we will do. Suppose benefit is greater than cost, we will choose this. Else we don't. So in advance, we will come to know whether this project will be beneficial to us or not. Based on that, we can decide. Okay. And one more limitation of project budget is it will be for a long period of time. Dam constructions, highway constructions, for many years it will take place. And the greater the time period that we are involving, our accuracy in estimation will reduce. I'll tell you why. Because in next 5 years, I can't estimate what war will take place, what pandemic will be there, what natural disaster I might incur, I might face in the country. We will not come to know exactly. That is why the longer the time for estimation, the lesser the accuracy will be. Nobody determined in advance that corona pandemic will occur in 2020. All of the businesses had to suffer. So the longer the time period for our decision making, lesser our accuracy will be, because nobody can 100% exactly estimate what will occur in the future. That is the disadvantage of project budget as well. Then it's a special commitment and it has to cover entire project lifespan. Then it is a budget for a specific project. This budgeted data and experience you can't use. This budgeted data you can't use anywhere else. Only for that specific project it will be used. So next up, okay, moving on with incremental budgeting. Incremental budgeting is very simple. Okay, so in 2026, we will have to prepare the budget for 2027 next year. What I will do, I'll take the current performance, that is 2026 actual performance or the budgeted performance I'll take. And based on that, based on this, I will be developing a budget for 2027. Based on actuals or budgeted data for the current period, we will be estimating the budget for next period. That is what happens in incremental budgeting. But here, the disadvantage is it assumes that current results will be acceptable for future. Again, that's a question mark. Then it adjusts the current period actuals or budget for expected changes. Current period actuals or budgets, we don't know whether it will hold true in the next period also or not. That is the limitation. Then activity-based budgeting. So we know about this concept. Activity-based budgeting is nothing but for every cost, you will find a specific cost driver. Okay. So for every cost, you'll be finding a specific cost driver and budgeting for all of them in detail. That is ABB. Okay. And it reveals cost reduction opportunities, where and how we can reduce the cost. That we will come to know. And it reduces the budgetary slack. Okay. So budgetary slack is nothing but whenever we give an opportunity for our employees to enter into this budgeting process. Why can we give opportunity for employees? Because those are the people who know the organization's reality. They will know practically what is possible, what is not possible. So if they are involved in budgetary process and you give them complete freedom without involving top level managers in budgeting process. Budgeting actually, it is the responsibility of top level managers. A budget process that has no top level managers involved is a failure budget process. Okay. Immediately you can reject that, because if it is a budgeting process, one of the top level managers should be there. Else it is not a proper budget itself. Then it if you include employees itself, solely if you include employees, what happens? They might prepare the budget according to their requirements, according to their benefit. Okay. At that time, budgetary slack will be there. Their aim will be to achieve the budget, and they will over specify the expenses and under specify the revenue. Okay, I'll explain this budgetary slack in detail in the next slide. For now, understand, employees will prepare the budget for their convenience, not for the organization's convenience. That is budgetary slack. If it is ABB, as you require proof for every activity, slack will be reduced. Then it must be used with ABC. So this is the biggest disadvantage. If you are choosing ABB, you should choose ABC. Okay, ABB, ABC, both should be used together. One is meaningless without the other. ABC is activity-based costing. Okay. And again, it identifies the cost drivers and sets budgeted activity level for each driver. Okay. So for each of the costs, that is setup cost or the transportation costs of the materials, machine setup time, for the carrying cost, for each of them, specific cost drivers you will identify. and it is time consuming. At the same time, it will be complex for the organization always to maintain activity based costing. And moreover, I'll tell you one more thing. Activity based costing is not accepted under US GAAP. If you are choosing activity based costing, it is only for internal purposes. You can't give it for the give this activity based budget and costing. Both of them are for internal purposes. It is not accepted by US GAAP. Okay, then yeah. So next up we have the methods of preparing the budget. So what are the three methods that we can use for preparing the budget? We call them as budgeting approaches. Okay, so we learned the entire budget process from from sales till cash budget. How do you prepare the budgets? That we came to know. Then we understood what are the budget methods that you can choose. You can prepare your operating budget by using ZBB or by ABB or by project budget or incremental budget, anything you can choose. Now, who are you going to involve in this budgeting process? That we will study in key budgeting approaches. Okay, so there are three approaches that you can make. First one is participative budget. In this participative budget, so let us first understand the levels of management. Lower level, they will know the practical reality of the organization. Middle level, they are just the link between top level and lower level. Top level management, they will know the strategy, but they lack organization's practicality. Okay, top level managers are good with strategies. Lower level employees are good with practical knowledge of firm. Now, when you prepare the budget, it is required that it should be practically achievable. That is why you will involve employees who know about the practical reality. Then what happens? It is practical and a good communication device. Your employees and top managers, they will communicate properly among themselves. At the same time, it is time consuming. Why? Because you should inquire your employees regarding budget, finalize it, negotiate it with top level managers, then fix it. So lot of process involved. It is time consuming. Okay. And risk of budgetary slack is there. So risk of budgetary slack means, as I told you, what these people do is, employees, when you involve them, there are chances that they will prepare budgets for their benefits. So what will be their benefits? So if you achieve in organizations, if you achieve the budget that you prepared, you will be getting incentives. To achieve the budget, what they will do? They will overestimate expenses. If they know that they can spend 10 rupees for a product, they will mention 15 rupees. Now, as a manager, when you see, oh, this product requires 15 rupees. My employee is very efficient and he has used only 10 rupees. This will be your view. But actually that product's cost is 10 rupees itself. But they have overstated it to 15 rupees to make management feel that they are achieving budgets properly. Same thing with revenue. If they are sure that their sales revenue will be somewhere around 100,000, they will understate it, stating that we will achieve only 80,000. Okay. Now, as a manager, again, when you look, you will see employees have achieved 100,000 revenue, but budget was only 80,000. Again, you will get a good opinion on that. This is the reason budgetary slack is negative for the organization. Employees will take undue benefit of participative budget. That is the disadvantage of participative budget. Then bottom-up preparation. That means employees, still top-level managers, everybody you will be involving in participative budget. Next up, we'll be moving with authoritative budget. So in this budget, what happens is top-level management, they'll prepare the budget and they will impose the budget. They'll say, everybody just follow this budget. Okay. Now what happens is, it's a top-down approach. Now think like employees. Your manager is not involving you in budgeting process. They simply say, this budget I have prepared, you have to follow and achieve the results. You will not feel involved. You will feel pressurized. That is what happens in authoritative budget. Involvement of employees will be less because you're not taking their inputs. You're simply assigning a budget to them without checking whether it is practically possible or not. Simply you're giving budget for them for achieving. That is why employees will be less involved. And the benefits of authoritative budget are senior management is preparing, so it will be best for the organization. And less time is consumed and no budgetary slack because employees' opinion itself we are not considering. Then comes consultative budget. It's a combination of participative and authoritative. What happens here? Senior management will meet the employees and they'll just take inputs from them. What is the practical reality? They'll just collect data. But finalizing the data will be in the hands of senior management. Okay. They can either consider the inputs in budget process or ignore it. Final decision will be at the top. But the limitation is here in consultative budget, what happens is you're taking inputs from employees, right? And they are also individuals who expect that some of their inputs will be involved in budgeting process. Assume top management simply spoke and collected inputs, giving them they'll expect some of our inputs will be there in the budget process. But if you are including none of their inputs in the budget process, they will be discouraged. Okay, that will be the negative side. It will create such a mindset that employees will feel even if you have not asked anything from them, they would be okay. After asking the inputs from them, if you don't involve it in the budgeting process, they'll feel offended for it. Okay, that creates even more less involvement, negative involvement of employees in consultative budget. Okay, all of the budgeting approaches have their own benefits, their own limitations. Based on the organization's scenario and structure, it will be applicable for them for using. Okay. So next up, yes, budgetary slack. This is what happens. Underestimating the revenues than what is possible, you will say lesser amount and achieve more amount just to gain incentives. And overestimating the expenses, you will say more, spend less. Okay. Then, how to fix this? Don't tie budgets to performance and educate the managers. So, why this is occurring? Because I have told employees, if you achieve the budgeted performance, I will give you incentives. Okay. So, if you are not giving incentives to employees based on achieving the budgets, this problem will be corrected. Now, they know that anyhow, for budget performance achievement, they'll not get incentives. So, they will give prompt budgets. Okay. Then comes response. Yeah. We'll talk about goal congruence first. So, goal congruence is nothing but, yeah. So, there are two sets of people involved in a firm. Okay. Employees and the top level management. Top level management and board of directors, they want all of us to achieve the final objectives or the aim of the organization. Now, think like an employee or a manager. Why did you even join that organization? Because you want your financial income to increase. You want your social status. That is, you want to get your promotions. That is why you have joined that company. That is your perspective. You will be working for your salary increments and your promotion. But board of directors want you to work for the achievement of organization's objectives. Okay. Now, when two people in the organization move towards opposite direction, we can't achieve the common goal of the firm. Okay. Then what happens is both of them will come to a mutual understanding, both employees, managers, and the top level manager. What do they think? Top level managers will promise the managers and employees saying that if you are achieving this objective of the firm, I will give you incentives. Okay. Now, what happens? Managers and employees will work for achieving organization's objectives. If they achieve it, they will get incentives. So, this is how we combine the goals of individuals and the organization together. That is goal congruence. Okay. Only with goal congruence, we will be able to achieve organization's objectives. Next up, we have responsibility centers. Responsibility centers, as we know, there are four centers: cost center, revenue center, profit center, and investment center. So, how do you segregate this is based on the performance based on the type of the department. Okay. In an organization, there will be n number of departments. All of them will be falling under either of these four categories. Okay. So cost center, your production department, your purchase department, they are well known for spending money. They will be involved in cost center. Okay. Then comes revenue center, your sales department, which is only focusing on earning revenue, not on any cost or profit. Sales revenue, sales department will come under the revenue center. Then profit center. So profit center will be the departments that are both involved with the cost and revenue. For example, one of the product lines of a company. Okay. If you are taking one product line of Reliance, let us take trends. Okay. So trends as a product line, when you see the trends, the manager who is managing with this product line, trends, that person will be accountable for both cost and revenue from trends product line. Okay. Then comes investment center. Reliance again has many branches in many parts of the country. Each of its branches is an investment center. An investment center, it is an autonomous center in a firm. They will be responsible for cost, revenue, and profit of their own center. Now, when we talk about the responsibility centers, we will have to focus on controllable and uncontrollable costs. So, controllable costs are the costs that manager can control, that is under manager's control. For example, production costs, that will be under his control. Uncontrollable cost will be depreciation of equipment, common costs of the organization, such as CEO's salary. All of them are uncontrollable. You can't assign them for a manager. And whenever we measure the manager's performance, we will focus that only we are including costs under their control for measuring the performance. Okay. Yes. Moving on to the next topic. Master budget preparation. Okay. So here in master budget preparation, what we need to know is the list of operating and financing budgets. In operating budgets, you will be starting with sales budget. And as I told you, it ends with budgeted income statement. What is income statement? It's a summary of our core operations. Okay. So sales budget. After sales budget, so now when you see the list of budgets, all of them are interdependent on each other. You can't prepare direct material usage budget first and production budget next. You can't do that. It has to be prepared in the same order. So sales budget, once you know the sales units, you will prepare your production according to the sales estimated. Then based on that, direct material usage budget you will be preparing. And based on the usage, what materials you want to use, based on that, you will prepare your purchase budget. Okay. And based on your production data, how many units you have to produce, you will be preparing your direct labor usage budget. Okay. Then comes manufacturing overhead cost budget. Later, we have ending inventories budget, followed by cost of goods manufactured budget. And then we have COGS budget, followed by non-manufacturing budgets. Then we have budgeted income statement. In the same order, we will be preparing it. Okay. And then comes our financial budgets. So here, CapEx budget, it's not properly a financial budget. Okay. But a part of CapEx budget is involved in financial budgets. Then comes cash budget. It's the last budget that we are going to prepare. Budgeted balance sheet and then budgeted statement of cash flows. You just need to know the order of this. I'll tell you what budgets you will be asked to prepare. Okay. Sales budget, production, the budgets I'm reading out now, you should focus on preparation. Okay. Rest of the budgets, just understand it. That is sufficient. So preparation will be important for sales, production, direct material usage, direct material purchase, direct labor, manufacturing overhead, ending inventories, COGM, COGS. Okay. So first 9 operating budgets, you should be thorough with the preparation. Then move on to financial budgets. You will be asked only for cash budget preparation. Okay. 1 till 9, then cash budget. This is what you should be proficient with. And now preparation of budgets is equally simple. So sales budget you can't prepare by yourself. That is a forecast that we make. Okay. And at the same time, you should remember among all the budgets, the most complex budget, the most important budget that you can prepare is sales budget. You know why? For sales budget, you will not have any predetermined data. You have to find it out by forecasting techniques. And your estimation has to be proper first. Because on your sales budget itself, all rest of your budgets are depending. Suppose your sales budget itself is wrong, your entire budgeting process will fail. Okay. That is why sales budget is very crucial budget that you have to prepare with adequate care. If we get a proper sales budget, rest of the budgeting process is simple. Production budget, how do we calculate? Sales demand plus desired ending inventory minus beginning finished goods inventory will be equal to production in units. After creating your production budget, you will be moving on with direct material usage budget. Okay, how many direct materials you want to use? It is nothing but whatever data you want to produce. You will get the production units, right? For this, you will be multiplying with whatever direct material requirement is there. Then after that, moving on with the direct material purchase budget. Same formula, but with raw materials. Direct material units required for production plus desired ending inventory minus beginning raw material inventory equals to raw material units to purchase. Followed by purchase budget comes your labor budget. Okay. So labor budget is very simple. For this, we don't have inventories. We can't store labors in inventories. So you will just take production units, multiply it with direct labor hours that you need per unit. As simple as that. Okay. Followed by labor budget is your manufacturing overhead budget. Here, you should be careful. What is variable manufacturing overhead per unit? You should find out. Fix it MOH, find it out. That gives you total manufacturing overhead. Okay. Finding it out is very important. You should know how you can calculate fixed and variable overheads per unit. That calculation you should know. Then manufacturing overhead rate per direct labor hour you will be getting. How? Total manufacturing overhead divided by total direct labor hours. So this is traditional method of allocating overheads. Okay. You will either choose direct labor hours or direct machine hours and you will be allocating. Then cost of goods manufactured. Direct material used plus direct labor plus manufacturing overhead plus beginning work in process minus ending inventory. Okay. All these are formulas. You just need to memorize them. Then cost of goods sold. Beginning finished goods inventory plus COGM minus ending finished goods inventory. Then your inventory calculation. Finished goods inventory. How do you calculate it? Beginning inventory plus manufactured units minus units that are sold gives you ending inventory. Then raw material inventory, same thing. Beginning inventory of raw materials plus purchased raw materials minus used raw materials gives you ending raw material inventory. This is how we calculate. Okay. Then how do we choose our output for overhead allocation? Okay. We know that overheads we need to allocate. So what is the basis we use for allocation? That we need to find out in this way. Okay. Just a minute. Yeah. So here we will be determining these standards for our direct material and direct labor. Okay. So how do we determine the standards? Right now we came to know that standard price is required for material and labor. How do you determine the standard price? That is by using this 5 methods. Activity analysis is the most accurate and the best one. Why? Because here you identify and evaluate all the input factors. Primarily, you will go and you yourself will investigate this primary input factors with the help of product and industry engineers. These are the people who know about it very well. So with the help of these people, you will estimate. So that is activity analysis. You are involving people who have the best knowledge about the standards and preparing the standards. It's a costly method and time consuming method, at the same time most accurate one. Then you have historical data. It is just that you assume your previous standards in the previous year, whatever you have used, to be applicable this year also. That is historical. Then target costing. So target costing, what happens is, in a very competitive market, we can't fix our own prices. We will have to go by market price. Okay. So, and every organization will have their own profit motives. Got it? So now what happens? Price is there and you know about your profits. From the price, when you subtract the profit, it will give you cost. Got it? So like this, we will be determining the target cost. And this is a market-driven standard setting method. At the fourth one, we have Kaizen. So Kaizen is nothing but strategic budgeting. So Kaizen is nothing but continuous improvement. Okay. So here what happens? You will update your standards yourself so that you will have to improve yourself. How do you improve? So this year, if you fix your direct material standard as 10 rupees, next year you will fix it to 9.5. As far as it is cost, you should focus on reducing it. Okay. So coming year, you will fix it to 9. Like this. Continuously, we will focus on improving ourselves through standard setting. At the last, we have benchmarking. Benchmarking is we will compare our own standards with our competitors' standards. Okay. And we will focus on reaching our competitors' standards. That is what happens in benchmarking. So why do we use all these methods? For fixing our direct material standard and direct labor standard. Okay. Then what about our manufacturing overheads? For manufacturing overheads, we have 4 methods. Theoretical capacity, practical capacity, normal capacity, and master budget capacity. So why are we using this? So, you will get total fixed manufacturing overhead. I'll give you one example. Okay. Rent of a building. It's a fixed cost. This rent of a building, assume you and your friends are sharing a particular rented room. Okay. Now, if you guys, people are 5 in number. Okay. This rent, assume it to be 10,000. 5 of you will share this 10,000. Okay. 2,000 rupees each. Suppose in the same room, 10 people are sharing the rent. 10,000, you guys will be sharing it as 1,000 rupees each. Okay. So to divide this fixed cost, you need how many members are surviving in this rented room, isn't it? So finding out how many members, that is finding out how many units are produced. For that, we will use these 4 methods. Okay. So now theoretical capacity, it means maximum capacity, highest level. Okay. 24 hours in a day without taking any rest. If a person produces units, finished goods, how many units they can produce? That is theoretical capacity. Okay. 24 hours a day, they will have to work. So, theoretical capacity is practically not achievable at all. Okay. That just remains in theory. Then next up, we will be moving on with practical capacity. That means theoretical capacity is 24 hours working. So, we will just allow for idle time. That means for a person, they require 8 hours of sleep and at least 2 hours of leisure time. Okay. So, in 24 hours, if you eliminate 10 hours that you are giving them as idle time, remaining 14 hours, they will have to work. This is practically possible with dedication. Okay. That is practical capacity. Then comes normal capacity. Normal capacity is what US GAAP accepts. Okay. On a long run, that means for 3 or 5 years at a stretch, when you take number of units produced and find out the average from that, how many units you can produce, that is what you take in normal capacity. Later, we have master budget capacity. So what happens here? It is our own estimation. In the next year, what is our estimated sales units? Okay. Our budgeted data is master budget capacity. For organization side, the best thing will be budgeted, master budget capacity. And when you look at it as a whole, according to US GAAP, normal capacity is best. Okay. Then The last important concept of section B is about control loop. So now we learn to budget. Okay. After budgeting and when we get the actual performance, we should also have the knowledge of seeing whether we have performed well or not, isn't it? How do we get to know that? It is through control loop. So control loop is very simple. Here, you will be finding out the established budget or standards of performance. That is what we budgeted initially. Okay. I'll tell you in simple words. First step, you will budget. Budget is ready for in 2026 this year. Budget for 2027, we have prepared and kept it ready. In 2027, your actual data you will get. Okay. Then what do? You will compare your actual data with the budgeted results. That is itself known as variance reporting. 2027 actual, compare it with 2027 budget. Then, if there is any variance, what is variance? When your budgeted data is different from your actual data, that is variance. Okay. So, you will have to investigate variance. Significant variance you have to investigate. What is meant by the significance? If you lose 1 rupee today, you will not worry about it. Suppose you lose 10,000 rupees today, you will worry about it, right? That is what is meant by significant. For organizations also, they will have their limits. Infosys, if they lose 10,000 rupees, they don't worry. Suppose they lose 1 million today, they will worry. So, the levels of significant variances, levels of significance will vary according to companies. Suppose same 10,000 for a sole proprietor. If he loses 10,000, definitely he will worry. But Infosys doesn't worry. So significance level will vary according to institutions or organizations. Okay. So when you investigate variances, all significant and unexpected variances you will be investigating. Okay. Then devise and implement corrective actions. Now we have found out the variances. If it is a variance that is unfavorable to us, what do we have to do? We will have to correct them, implement corrective actions. Okay. Then review and revise the budget. Now, as you have chosen your corrective actions, you will have to check for it continuously. Okay. As are we correcting it properly? Are the standards improving? You will investigate it properly. That is the sixth step. Okay. This is the control loop that we follow. Then next up, we have variance reporting. Favorable variance means that's a benefiting variance for us. That suppose you have estimated for a revenue of 10,000, but you actually got a revenue of 15,000. That is a benefit for us. We planned that we will get only 10,000, but we got 15,000. It's good for us. Suppose your expenses. You planned for your expenses for 5,000 and you have spent only 2,500. That is again a benefit for us. That is favorable variance. Now think exactly the opposite of this. You are getting revenue lesser than your expectation and you are spending more than your expectation. That is unfavorable. Okay. Now let us come back to pro forma statements. Okay. So pro forma statement, it is not a master budget statement. This thing you guys have to be clear. Okay, it's not at all included in master budget statements. But what is this pro forma statement? It means it is very similar to what if planning. Okay, businesses always they will be worried about their future. In future, if they get any bad circumstances, they will have to lose all their profits. That is why they will prepare in advance what might be their estimated future cost or expenses. They'll be well prepared. It is as same as your what if planning. We'll just take the war example even now. Okay. Now in the Middle East war, and now we are in a food and beverage industry, and now we are in a very serious situation where we don't have a proper facility for our natural gas. Now we definitely have to prepare our pro forma statements, or else we don't know what might happen to our business in the future. Now what do? We'll plan. What if war continues in the next year? What will be my alternative? What if war will continue for next 2 years? What if war will end in this month? For all this what ifs, we will prepare a pro forma statement. Okay. So that is the concept of pro forma statement. You'll assume what might happen and you'll, well in advance, you'll prepare a budget and keep it so that it will be helpful for you in future. And always remember, it's not a part of master budget statements. Okay, guys. So this is up for section B. We've discussed all the most important topics from section B. Now, all 9 of you, are you guys clear with the concepts? If you have any doubts, you can ask me. If you're clear, you can type in yes. If any doubts, you can ask me. You can unmute and ask. Yes. What remaining students? Perfect. Okay, guys. Yes. So I think we're good to end today's session. Yeah. Thank you, all of you. You had a very good interaction today with me. I expect the same interaction for the next 5 days as well. Okay. So tomorrow I'll be back with section C booster session. Yeah. For now, we can end the session. Thank you all. Welcome.